Hey guys, today I will read chapter 11 of the book Hetty. I haven't read this book for a while because I'm just busy studying for the 6th grade. I think it will be next Tuesday. It will be my test for 3 subjects: English, math, and literature. So I've done a lot of work and I just wait for 2 more days until the exams comes. But now I do have some free time to read books. So let's get started on chapter 11. I woke to the clamor of a bell. A new big girl strode up and down the dormitory, shouting at us to get up. It was cold and my bladder was bursting, but I had to strip my bed, rolled up my mattress, and put on my hateful uniform before I could shuffle to the privy. A big girl, yet another. So many. How would I ever learn who was who? Wash our hands, inspect our necks, and brush our hair. Then we had to line up and walk 2 by 2 to the dining room. I did not have anyone to talk with. I decided I did not care. I pictured myself another Hetty, and we held hands and walked downstairs together, whispering to each other. Several times, the other girl tried to elbow me out of the way, but Hetty and I elbowed back. We had small arms, but very sharp, pointy elbows. Stop pushing and poking each other, a nurse called. Who's that girl, the little one? Hetty Feather, the other girls chorused, triumphant that I was in trouble again. You must learn patience and decorum, Hetty Feather. We expect little girls to queue up quietly for their food at the hospital, not trample and grunt like little pigs in a sty. She said inhumously, but she nearly set me off crying again because I thought of our pig in the sty and Jem and Mother, and a wave of homesickness washed over me. So, "Joe, the new little girl," said the kitchen maid at the end of the table, serving our bowls of porridge. She was small and slight. If it wasn't for her careworn face, I might have mistaken her for one of the big girl foundlings. Her maid's uniform hung about her, her skirts trailing past her boots. "I'm new here too. It feels very strange, don't it?" I nodded forlornly. "I'm sure we'll both settle down soon," she said. "Here, specially for you." She took a twist of paper out of her apron pocket and sprinkled the contents on the top of my porridge. "Sugar," she whispered. All the other girls had entirely plain portion. "Get on with it, Ida. There isn't time to talk to the children," the fat cook called from the serving hatch. Ida winked at me. I did my best to wink back, though I hadn't quite mastered the art, and I fear I squinted dreadfully. Ida's unexpected kindness cheered me even more than a sprinkle of sugar. I still had to face the ordeal of morning school. We had a proper mistress, not a nurse, an elderly lady called Miss Newman. She did indeed resemble a new kind of man. She was tall and square, shouldered, with a severe bun scraped back from her wrinkled forehead. She could control her hair, but her eyebrows wriggled in unruly fashion above her small spectacles. She was plainly dressed in a gray blouse and a white collar and a dark gray skirt, with just a silver clasp on her belt to break the monotony, but she looked exotically glamorous in comparison with the dull uniform of all the nurses. She stood at the front of her classroom and yet peered hard at all of us girls. She saw me and raised her formidable eyebrows. "What's your name, little girl?" "Hetty Feather, nurse, miss." "You will address me as Miss Newman, if you please." "Yes, Miss Newman." "Did you attend school in your foster home?" No, Miss Newman, she sighed. Well, you are going to have to concentrate very hard, Hetty Feather. She held up a large placard with 4 pictures. There was a round, rosy fruit, a big brown furry creature, a yellow piece of furniture, and a black and white animal waving its tail. Each picture has a rating underneath it. A for apple, B for pear, C for chair, and D for dog, I declared. Miss Newman stared at me. I thought you said you have never attended school, Hetty Feather. I haven't, Miss Newman. So, how have you learned to read? My big brother Jim read it to me, I said proudly, so I learned all my letters. Miss Newman nodded approvingly. Then he was a kind brother to you, child. Oh, he is. The kindest brother in the whole world, I said fervently. Miss Newman led all of us through the alphabet with her colored placards. Then we progressed to the much duller, but still interesting spelling out of little words. It was not long before I could stutter, "The cat is on the mat." And in the second half of the long morning lesson, I grasped a scratchy pen and wrote line after line of shaky A's and B's and C's. Then I wrote my first sprawling word, cab, and drew a picture of the little cab that had taken me away to the grim new life. Miss Newman liked my picture, but she liked my word. When she had shown me how to sign my artwork, Hetty, she embellished with a gold star. I was pleased and proud, but the star made me think of the wondrous night of the circus, and Madame Adeline, and that awfulness of Gideon going missing, and I had to fight to stop my tears brimming all over again. She thinks she's so clever just because she can't read and write. But look, she's nothing but a crybaby. Shayla hissed to her friend Monica. Shayla was the fierce fair girl with a high forehead, and I already detested her. However, Martha came and peered very closely at my picture, running her finger along the lines as if it helped her to see. Very good, Hetty. And you've got a ghost star. I've never had a gold star yet. I won't either. I'm a total dudes, she sighed, though she said it cheerily enough. Well, I think you're very clever, I said loyally. Even if Martha did not remember me properly, I remembered her. We were still sisters, no matter what. Martha was truly very good at our singing lesson. We had to stand in lines and sing long, dreary hymns. I did not know the words yet, so I could only hum uncertainly to the piano music. But Martha's voice soared high above the others, making me shiver with its sweetness. Wait till I tell Mother. She will be so proud that Martha can sing like an angel, I thought. Then I realized I would never be able to tell Mother. I had to fight the tears this time, knowing that if I cried again, the other girls would torment me. I screwed up my face desperately. Look at Hetty Feather. Look at Hetty Feather, sang Shaylee, keeping in time to the hymn. She looks like she's about to wet herself. I did actually need to go to the privy. I couldn't get used to the idea of only being able to go when the nurses commanded. My bladder and bowels had a will of their own, and I pray I would not have an accident. One girl was gurgling and jiggling towards the end of the line, and Miss Newman spoke to her sharply. Stop fidgeting, Sarah Barnes. Sarah jumped, and then water started trickling down her legs, spurting in a pool about her boots. The girls on either side of her sprang away, and everyone stared and pointed. Miss Newman sent Sarah out of the room in disgrace. She shuffled soggily away, her head bowed, her face scarlet with shame. I had a desperate private conversation with my own bladder. I see my big splatter at home, so I had some idea of what mine looked like. I pictured tying the end up tightly with string, making many knots. It worked so well that we were eventually allowed a trip to the privy. I sat there for several minutes before I could squeeze out a single drop. Come along, Hetty Feathers, for goodness sake, child. You must be finished now. You're just being contrary. A nurse came and dragged me up while I was still weeing. A little splash down my legs, but not enough to make a puddle. I thanked the Lord for my long skirt, though it wasn't uncomfortable. We had a dinner in the great dining hall. I saw Harriet and I tried to go and sit with her, but I was held back to sit on a bench with the other girls my age. We had a different kitchen maid to dole out a few morsels of boiled mutton and carrots and potatoes. I received a standard portion, but when the other kind kitchen maid passed behind my bench, taking her great dish back to the kitchen, she slipped one more potato onto my plate. It had a little dab of butter on top and tasted especially delicious. She watched me eat it up, smiling at me. Did that new kitchen maid give you an extra potato, Hetty Feather? Shayla demanded crossly. She had one left, so she gave it to me because I'm little and I look sweet. I said, not like you. Shayla had a very high, frowny forehead and a fierce expression, her mouth drooping like a dog. I pulled my own features into Shayla's face, and the two girls opposite laughed. Even Monica sniggered, though she was Shayla's best friend. It was a stupid mistake to ridicule Shayla, especially as she was much bigger than me. She cornered me out in the playground when there wasn't a nurse in sight. I'll teach you, Hetty Feather, she said, and she punched me in the stomach so that I doubled over. Then she ran behind me and pushed hard. I toppled down onto my chin. I grazed my hands painfully, tore the knees out of both my stockings, and sliced my poor chin right open. Monica swaddled down beside me, looking aghast. Oh, Shayla, you've hurt her. She's bleeding frightfully. Look. Only a little bit, said Shayla, but she looked worried too. What if she tells matron, said Monica. You will be whipped, Shayla. Good, I said, struggling to my chin. I wiped my stinking chin with my hand. I was startled when I saw the bright red on my fingers, but I decided to be brave. I would play soldiers often enough with Jem at home. I knew you had to show courage when you were wounded. I marched up, swinging my arms, my dripping chin held high. Matron Pigface came into the playground just then, bell in hand, ready to ring us for go indoors for our needlework session. She took one look at me and gasped, Hetty Feather, whatever have you done to yourself, you grudge child? Every girl in the playground stood still, staring at me, while at the corner of my eye I saw Shayla and Monica clasping hands. Answer me, Hetty Feather. Pigface bellowed. I did not want to answer her. I did not want to admit to all this infant fouling that Shayla had knocked me down, and I had failed to punch her back. It was too shaming. Matron Pigface was peering closely at my chin, inspecting my hands, lifting my skirt to see my torn stocking and oozing knees. Have you been in a fight? I shook my head because I hadn't had the wit or strength to fight Shayla back. So did some girl here attack you? Bigface demanded. I opened my mouth at last. I looked at Shayla. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of everyone knowing she had triumphed over me. No, Miss Matron, no one attacked me. I fell over because these blooming boots are too big. Big Face shook me by the shoulders for impertinence until my head waggled. Then she seized me by the wrist and hurried me up to the washroom. She scrubbed my chin and hands and knees with carbolic soap. It stung horribly, but I stood still and stiff because I was a wound soldier and would not show weakness to any enemy. Then she painted my chin with strange purple liquid from a medicine bottle. This stung even worse than the soap, and I giggled just a little. Keep still, Hetty Feather, Pigface said. But when she finished applying the violet medicine and replaced my blood-spattered tippet with a fresh one, she gave me a nod that was almost approving. Run along to join the other girls at needlework, Hetty, and watch where you're going this time. She did not accompany me. I was supposed to know my own way around the building after 24 hours resident. I darted off, but I was concentrating on the pain of my chin. I darted in the wrong direction, to the left instead of the right. I blurred down a long echoing corridor, turned a corner, and soon to find the washroom all over again. I stared at the big white room, my hands over my sore chin, wondering how I could possibly have come full circle when a small sniveling boy came rushing in with ink all over his head. We stood staring at each other, equally taken aback. What are you doing in the boys' wing, little girl? I got lost, I said honestly, then sighed in irritation. Why would he not be Gideon? You would be whipped if they find you. He said, I know I don't care. I'll go in a minute. But please, could you tell me first? Do you know my brother Gideon? Is he all right? Gideon, said the little boy, sneering. You mean the idiot boy? He is not idiot, I shouted fiercely. I shall hit you if you say he is. His hands went over his mouth, smearing ink all over his face. Now you're all black and it serves you right, I said. I ran out of the washroom, right along the corridor until I saw a whole troop of boys bustling out of a big room. I peered hard at this army of brown, but I couldn't spot Gideon at all. However, all of the boys could see me. They let a whoop and a shout. Girl, girl, girl! A nurse came running, shouting at me furiously. I knew I had to make a quick escape. I flew back along the corridors, back to the safety of the girls' wing, where I slowed down and walked, trying to look innocent. I joined my class at their darning. Where have you been, Hetty Feather? Asked Nurse Winterson. Oh dear, your poor Jim. What happened to you? All the girls looked up expectantly. She looked clearly anxious. I wanted to get her into trouble with Nurse Winterson, but I still did not want to make it plain to all that she had got the better of me. I held my tongue a second time. I tripped and matron took me up to put this purple stinging stiff on my chin. I said, It's gentian violet, Hetty. I dare say it hurt a great deal. You have been very brave, dear. I thought the girls might grow to see me singled out so favorably, but they nodded at me, almost in a friendly fashion. I did not know then that I had to avoid the worst sin of all at the Foundling Hospital. No matter how a child is teased and tortured, they must never, ever tell nurse or matron. If they do, the others will torment them until their last day at the hospital. I had unwittingly kept to this rule and won everyone's respect. I sat and stitched demurely while Nurse Winterson read us a story. I love stories, and this was a splendid fairy tale, but for once I could not concentrate. My mind was whirling. I knew how to reach the boys' wing, but I would be spotted immediately if I went back there, unless I could find some way of disguising myself. I did not see how this was possible. until later in the day when Harriet sought me out. Poor Hetty, look at your sore chin. Oh dear, she said, making a great fuss of me. I rather enjoyed this. Bye.